Naga is in Westminster for us this morning, and Naga, you're avoiding terrible sheep gags. I think you got the good end of the job today.
Sheep gags?
Yes,
Sheep gags?
Yeah, we were just doing a thing about Madrid where we're talking about sheep being fleeced.
Literally?
Yes.
I'm avoiding them. Got lots of noise down here, though, as well, so I apologise to viewers in the first place, but you should be able to hear exactly what we're doing this morning. We're trying to figure out what happens next, and I can talk now to one of the MPs who forced the Prime Minister to ask the EU for a Brexit extension over the weekend. It's his former Conservative cabinet colleague, now sitting as an independent backbencher, Justine Greening. Good morning to you. What was in your mind when you were driving this thought to get this extension? Because lots of people have said this was an issue of a lack of trust in Boris Johnson and how he's going to let Brexit play out.
For me, it was the lack of detail. We literally didn't have a deal of any shape until last Thursday. This is the biggest constitutional change in Britain for decades. We'll have to live with it for decades. I want to see the detail, and that's what we were voting for on Saturday.
Lots of people say you voted to remain, so voting for this amendment is in effect just another way of trying to stop Brexit. Is that what you were trying to do?
No. Even if we get Brexit done, we've got to get it done properly, and that means going through what's proposed in meticulous detail. We haven't seen the Brexit bill, and that's the new law, if you like, that my community is going to have to live under for decades. I just want to see that actual contract before I sign up to it. That's what my community expects me to do, is to be on the ball and making sure I'm on top of the details.
Your community as well, you grew up in Rotherham, it voted to leave the EU by 68%, so in many ways you're going against what your constituency, your former constituency, wanted.
Well, I grew up in a Leave constituency. I now represent a very heavily Remain constituency. And so I've done my best to represent my community in Putney in Parliament, and that's my job. But I think wherever you live in the UK, what you need Parliament to do is to make sure that it's on top of the actual detail that will affect day-to-day lives for decades to come. And that's why we need to see the withdrawal agreement bill, and I'm hoping the government will finally get around to publishing it today.
What do you think in terms of the additional amendments that might come along, the additional questions? What do you think in terms of realistically getting it done by October the 31st?
I see very little prospect of us being able to do that, because at the end of the day, this is a huge bill. It's likely to be 100 pages. And we all know that rushed law is bad law, but this isn't just any old law. This is the political rewiring of our country, and it has to be done properly. And that's all I'm saying. And I recognise that people will say, well, let's just get it done. But actually, this is anyhow just the beginning of a Brexit process. Even when we've done this bill, we will need to look at the free trade agreement. So all I am saying with others is we have to go through this process properly, otherwise we'll end up with a bad result. And so my job is to make sure it's a good one.
I'm assuming that you don't think the Speaker will allow a meaningful vote today.
I don't know, that's up to John Bercow. But my sense was we had the vote on Saturday, and although the government didn't mobilise its own MPs and push it to, if you like, a divided vote, that was the moment. So if they wanted to vote their deal through, we were all there to do that, and it didn't happen. So I don't know what John Bercow will agree to, but what I do know is whatever happens, we need to see the detail.
If there is a proposal to add an amendment for a second referendum, for a people's vote, would you support that?
Yes, because I think we're now 3.5 years on from Brexit, and I think whatever happens, it feels like we're a very long way away from the lofty ideals, if you like, of that campaign. And I also recognise that Brexiteers don't seem to agree on what Brexit should be. So Nigel Farage is saying that he thinks Boris Johnson's Brexit is Brexit in name only. I think the only people who can really decide what Brexit is and whether they want to go ahead with it are the British people. We should just give them the choice.
Many people will be questioning your motivation. As someone who's now out of the Conservative Party, an independent MP, you are standing down at the next election. And you have said, and I'll quote, "I'm leaving Parliament to drive change where it actually is happening on the ground." You also said maybe one day our political system will catch up. By you leaving it, you're not going to be helping it.
Well, I think the real issues in our country are things like lack of equality of opportunity. I think that's what drove a lot of the anger and concern around Britain that perhaps drove the Brexit vote. I'm going to go and make sure I'm working on those. Everyone's saying we've got to get Brexit done to get onto these other things. I don't want to wait until we get Brexit done, because believe me, Brexit will take many, many, many years. So I'm going to make sure I put my time into campaigning and changing things on the ground now.
Sounds like you've given up on the political system.
I just think that politics is all going to be focused on Brexit, and I recognise people want to get onto the other stuff. Well, I'm going to get onto the other stuff.
Justine Greening, thank you for talking to me this morning. Thank you. Justine Greening, independent MP. It is raining here. It is cold. That's all I can tell you. But it's not my job to tell you anymore. We have someone far more qualified to do that, and that is Carol. Good morning.